Okay, today we're here for celebrating the life of William Bill D. Maxey. I'll get to it. So as you came in, there was some music playing, and that's I guess, Venerable Benny Goodman, who my dad adored, and that was one of his inspirations as a clarinetist. So that's why that music was there. There's a number of people that put this together, and like everything else, try to come together the best way possible. But as Greg Moran says, there's no wrong way, there's no right way, there's just the way. So, and today, like most people I've talked to over the last week or so, we're leaning forward, smile on our face with a heavy heart. Richie, would you have to come up and do the prayer?
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for letting us all be able to join together today to celebrate the life of William Bill Dean Maxey. Thank you for letting us all arrive here safely and unite as friends, family. Please bless that we all may hold in our hearts the memories of my grandfather. We may enjoy his life and the great memories he's provided for us all. Please bless we all may leave here safely and get back home and enjoy each other's company while we're all together. Thy will be done in Jesus Christ, amen. Amen.
And now we'll have Rochelle Maxey. She's going to do the scripture reading from Psalm 30.
A psalm and song at the dedication of the house of David. I will extol thee, O Lord, for thou hast lifted me up and hast not made my foes to rejoice over me. O Lord my God, I cried unto thee, and thou hast healed me. O Lord, thou hast brought up my soul from the grave. Thou hast kept me alive, that I should not go down to the pit. Sing unto the Lord, O ye saints of his, and give thanks at the remembrance of his holiness. For his anger endureth but a moment, in his favor is life. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. And in my prosperity I said, I shall never be moved. Lord, by thy favor thou hast made me my mountain to stand strong. Thou didst hide thy face, and I was troubled. I cried to thee, O Lord, and unto the Lord I made supplication. What profit is there in my blood when I go down to the pit? Shall the dust praise thee? Shall it declare thy truth? Hear, O Lord, and have mercy upon me. Lord, be thou my helper. Thou hast turned for me my mourning into dancing. Thou hast put off my sackcloth and girded me with gladness, to the end that my glory may sing praise to thee and not be silent. O Lord my God, I will give thanks unto thee forever.
And we have Mr. Raul Olivas, clarinetist with the NMSU band program. And I know he was here. There he is. And he has the musical selection, it as well, with my soul on clarinet, of course. Next speaker that we have is Brother Bill McKibben, and he'll enlighten us with some good words.
Enlighten us?
You get the stage.
Yeah. Well, good morning, brothers and sisters.
Good morning.
It was my privilege to get to know Wild Bill. Yes, he was. I mean, well, anyway, he was a good man. But he's graduated out of this life and into the next. And it's all right to mourn. That's the way it's supposed to be. I met Bill years ago as his minister, along with David Clausen that's here. This was during a time that Naomi, was still with us. Bill was devastated by her passing, but I'm sure somewhat relieved that she was no longer suffering. These were a most difficult time for him. However, as time pressed on, he grew worried about seeing her again. He realized that he had lost his companion. Many church members helped with his funeral and arrangements with the family, Carrie, Rick, and Rand. I had visited the home of Bill and Naomi Maxey. I realized that Naomi was going to graduate. And it would be soon. We blessed her to have peace, and the Lord would be with her. Naomi had been a member since she was around 8, I guess, or so, in her early childhood. It was after the funeral that I really got to know my friend Bill Maxey, or Wild Bill as I called him. What an energetic man he was, and still is, I'm sure. His neighbors loved him and watched over him as well. He also watched over his neighbor's house by mowing her yard and whatever needed to be done. He was so dedicated to his teaching of music and band. He said when he got out of college, he went to teach music to the native tribes in Gallup, Chinle, and Zuni, other schools on the reservation, or the res, as he called it. He said, funny thing was, some of the students were older than he was. Not only had Bill worked on the res, but my wife and I also still do after 20 years. Yes, Bill and I had many connections. Not just our first names, but we both taught at Zia Junior High School, I found out. He was a little earlier on, but still, we remembered it. I played a trumpet in high school, and later a baritone, which I didn't like. Bill said, well, sure, your lips are too thin for a baritone. I totally agreed and laughed after his understanding of music showed through. Bill and I sat for hours going over his life. Always Naomi and the Lord were part of that conversation, and the Book of Mormon that he loved. Sugar cookies were his favorite, which my wife Linda made many dozen for him. He actually complained he had gained 3 pounds over his high school weight of 133 pounds. I felt so sorry for him. Not. I said, you poor thing, I guess we'll have to cut back on the cookies. That ended the complaining. All in fun, of course. I would often tell my wife that I was going over to see Bill Maxey, not to worry or wait up, that I would be home. In a few hours. Bill's energy was intense for a man of 80s. I can only imagine what he was like in his younger years. Yeah. His house was immaculate inside and out. He even had a miniature city all set up in another part of his house where groups of children would come over with their parents to see the little winter town all lit up with lights and moving parts. My wife and I were amazed. Different groups throughout the city would schedule groups to come in and see it. Bill had been baptized later in his life and had not the preparation or the time he needed to follow the dream to be Naomi's with Naomi throughout the eternities. This was mine and David's role as ministers, not only to give him personal blessings, but to help him understand that what it would take to be sealed for all time and eternity in the temple. He needed to understand things like the oath and covenant of the priesthood, our pre-earth life, our earth life and its preparations, and the resurrection, along with the 3 degrees of glory likened unto the sun, moon, and stars found in Corinthians 1:15. I miss those days of conversations with a wonderful friend. Now let me close with this final scripture. It may solidify our eternal relationship with each other as we sit here in the pearl of great price under Abraham 3:18. How, well, if there be 2 spirits, and one shall be more intelligent than the other, yet these 2 spirits, notwithstanding one is more intelligent than the other, have no beginning. They existed before. They shall have no end. They shall exist after, for they are nolum or eternal. So we have always lived. So with that, we have had a long time to know each other and to know our parents, our children, and all that before we came. And I'll leave these things with you in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Next selection will be from a poem reading entitled Alpine Song by William W. Story. And Miss Naomi Molina, from his granddaughter from Eagan, Minnesota, will be delivering that.
Alpine Song by William Whitmore Story. With alpenstock and knapsack light, I wander over the hill and valley. I climb the snow peak's flashing height and sleep in the sheltered chalet. Free in heart, happy and free. This is the summer life for me. The city's dust I leave behind for the keen, sweet air of the mountain. The grassy path by the wild rose lined, the gush of the living fountain. Free in heart, happy and free. This is the summer life for me. High above me, snow clouds rise in the early morning gleaming, and the patterned valley beneath me lies, softly in sunshine, dreaming. Free in heart, happy and free, this is the summer life for me. The bells of wandering herds I list, chiming in upland meadows. How sweet they sound as I lie at rest, under the dark pine shadows. Glad in heart, happy and free, this is the summer life for me. The thundering Lavinas roar I hear, and the torrents foamy bounding, and the steep crags answer sweet and clear, when the alpine horn is sounding. Glad in heart, happy and free, this is the summer life for me. A good stout alpenstock in hand, a flask from my shoulder swinging, and a rose in my hat over the overland. Glad in heart, happy and free, this is the summer life for me.
As my dad would have said, he would have said, thank you, Fraulein Naomi Molina, for that. Now comes the hard work. Bill Maxey was born December 18, 1935. In Kansas City, Missouri. His parents were William and Alvina Maxey. He was an only child and was raised with a strong Germanic influence and a continual stream of spiritual guidance from his mother. As a child, he attended school in Kansas City until his family relocated to Truth and Consequences, New Mexico. He continued his elementary, secondary, and high school studies, graduating in 1955 from what was then called Hot Springs High School. In high school, he fell in love with music and his soon-to-be wife. Under the tutelage of Mr. Greg Randall, who some of you may know, who is the director of bands at Hot Springs High School, he was selected to the New Mexico All-State Band for 4 successive years, playing his beloved clarinet. He was actually, in those days, as a freshman in high school, or at the middle school, I guess at that point, he had been selected and attended All-State, which was pretty interesting for that time. He then was recruited to continue his music education at Eastern New Mexico University in Portales. He graduated in 1959 with a Master of Arts degree. While in college, he played clarinet in marching, concert, symphonic, jazz, and swing bands. He was a member of Kappa Kappa Psi music fraternity, where he ascended to the title of vice president. He greatly admired and was inspired by the famous clarinetist, Mr. Benny Goodman. He also found time to serve his fellow citizens in the state and country for several years as a member of the New Mexico National Guard, where he developed a number of lifelong friendships and honed his leadership skills, as well as a vast repertoire of stories about all the times he had been out on McGregor Range doing stuff. So, always entertaining. During his time at ENMU, he married Naomi Bernice Kellen on September 3rd, 1955. They were soon proud parents of 2 boys, Randy and Ricky. Naomi told many stories of their time in Portales and the starving artist / college student's plight. And that's where we redefined the no more monkeys on the bed, because we would climb up onto the Chester doors, dive off onto the bed. My dad was sleeping after a gig on Friday or Saturday night, and of course he didn't really want to be doing that, but he went along with the program. So upon degree completion, he was hired into his first job as a certified music teacher at Zuni High School, Zuni, New Mexico. As a new teacher at that high school, he was responsible for designing the high school's first band uniforms. Being surrounded by the Zuni culture, he picked out a beautiful turquoise, black, and silver outfit, which was reflective of the colors found in the Zuni tribal culture. Those uniforms were utilized for many years, and the color combination is still used today. As Brother McGivern said, he would, little did he know when he took the job that he would have students still in high school that were older than him. And he thought that was interesting that he had already gone through, got his master's degree, and there were high school students older than him at the high school. And he also found out this other thing called associated duties. One of those duties was to help the high school football coaches actually go out and plow down the weeds on the high school football field, and they would take some truck or whatever, take a rail tie to it and drag it around the football field until they got all the weeds gone, so the football team and the high school band could march up and down and prepare for their halftime. His band won a variety of awards in marching and concert band at Zuni, and it was also during this time that his daughter Carrie, that their daughter Carrie was born. In 1963, he decided to accept an offer as a band director at Lynn Middle School in Las Cruces. He grew the program as he always did in all of the schools he taught at. He played an integral role in developing students' musical talents and love for music, and then sent them along to Las Cruces High School, which was run by Mr. Greg Randall, who had previously been at Hot Springs High. So Mr. Randall had gone out and recruited good people to provide feeder students to the high school level. It was hard to believe, but in 3 successive years, his junior high band recorded 3 full-length vinyl records, which are displayed out front. Without a doubt, many of the students in attendance can remember cutting those records possibly. But in that day and age, that was almost unheard of. And in today's day and age, that is unheard of. So there also Mr. Ralph Montez was one of the band directors working with my dad to help put all that together. He creatively used a variety of ensembles to perform Yuletide favorites across Las Cruces, generally brass choirs, but not limited to that. his idea was to spread holiday cheer and to have boxes located at each performance so foodstuffs and toys could be dropped off, and then those were redistributed to needy families across the valley. One of his favorite stories was that when he had a white truck with a silver camper shell, and they would take all the boxes, put them into the back of the truck, and go driving around town, dropping the boxes off. And there was a small child that walked up to him and said, and the child had got the box, and he says, "When's the big truck coming?" And my dad just kind of didn't know how to answer that and said, "It'd be along." So, in 1968, he accepted the director of band's position at Catalina High School in Tucson, Arizona. Dad being dad, he immediately went into the program, assessed what needed to be done, and he found out that there was a large music library that was in total disarray. From marching band music to concert music to you name it. Everything was, here's Begin to Begin, and it's over in like the Fifth Symphony or something. So he said, we got to get this corrected. So our first summer in Tucson, the family would congregate in the morning, have breakfast, and then we would start sorting all the different musical pieces around the house, and we would start with the flutes, piccolos, whatever, and all the way down through all the rest of the instruments. So after getting our Juris degree in sorting music and being able to identify what went where and the 8,200 stacks of music around the house, you got pretty good at being finding the right place to get it to. After a year, he decided to relocate the family to Roswell, New Mexico. He taught at Mountain View Middle School and Roswell High at the same time. He grew both programs by leaps and bounds and had a solid reputation for his outstanding music education programs. He noted that Mountain View did not have a fight song, and in cooperation with his wife, they took the University of Arizona fight song and adapted it to the middle school, replete with appropriate wording, and that tune is still being used today. One of his major successes at Roswell High was introducing a new style of marching performance called drum corps. Again, he designed new uniforms for the school, which he had a flair for that, obviously. He created a dynamic atmosphere where students were thrilled to participate in the creation of incredibly entertaining halftime shows. And keep in mind, this was completely new to New Mexico. So he was one of those guys that was out there in front, and a lot of, I guess, the other professionals in the music business were kind of, like, what's this all about? But he went ahead and he energized the Band Boosters organization, which created energetic organization. They had gone to a large number of competitions across the Southwest and always came back with major awards. This style of marching was controversial, but Dad was dedicated to using it as a catalyst to teach students real-life skills to include leadership, presentation, teamwork, and community outreach. Imagine all that could be done by just changing the way to march. The winds of change came again in 1978 as Bill and Naomi relocated to Las Cruces for a second time, where he taught at Zia Middle School. Guess what? He again designed a band uniform and led bands that won countless awards and accolades for both concert and marching band. Upon retirement, he continued to give private lessons where his students earned their way into the New Mexico All-State Band. He judged band competitions statewide while mentoring a wide array of young, influential music educators. In the late 50s, Bill was introduced to Alpine, Arizona by Greg Randall. One day, he asked his wife and daughter to go for a ride. He drove about 4 miles out of town and descended down a steep, inclined gravel road. He told Naomi he had bought a couple of acres. She was in shock. She was in shock because, according to her, they could barely pay for the living expenses they had for a family. They had a large vacation home built on the property in 1978. The open house lasted 3 days and was the talk of Alpine, with friends from Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas joining in on fun. A few of his fellow musicians performed as a German Oompa band in a local parade for the 4th of July, I believe it was. That was the first ever in the Alpine area. Over the years, Alpine stood the test of time and provided a backdrop to family reunions and many great times. He and Naomi spent every summer there, and once retired, they lived there 6 months out of the year. It was also in Alpine that he extended his reputation as being a lawn ranger. So every house we had lived up to that point, he was the lawn ranger. But in Alpine, he took that to new heights. He was always watering, weeding, feeding, and mowing his property. I'm sure you'll hear from my brother some other little funny things about that. We can't forget how clean the grounds were due to his endless need to pick up debris that had fallen from the trees, things of that nature. And the house was a traditional, beautiful German house. Built up, it was an A-frame. If you've ever been there, you know. Or if you've seen pictures, you know what it's all about. It's a good thing he did the efforts he did, because they had this thing called this little tiny fire in Arizona called the Wallow Fire, and it did burn down to the line, the property line, and one of the boats suffered some damage to it, but that was it. Mostly because of all his work. Up in there were 10 or 12 structures that burned because people hadn't followed the path that he had taken trying to maintain his property. Then there was this thing called the gaming room, which he built a crap table and hosted many Vegas-style games. These get-togethers would last until the early hours of the morning. Bill was very funny and entertaining. Some of the teacher comments from kindergarten progress reports way back in 1942 and 43 were, he is good in rhythmic expression, but not so good in singing. He has the power to do better in music, but not until he listens and watches better. You will be proud of his improvement in music. Billy Dean is inclined to be mischievous. Little did these teachers know what was in store for his future. Naomi always had a large amount of stories to tell about Bill. And one in particular was that while they were dating, Dad was performing a ballet dance for her in his mother's house. And somehow he managed to find an antique side table of his mother's, which he crushed. His mom was angry, but they laughed and laughed over it for years. When he was in front of his band, he was well known for making funny faces or telling silly jokes. If you knew my dad, you knew that he had a unique perspective on life, and he definitely marched the beat of his own drum. He was my dad, but after I got back from the Navy, he was my friend. And we had some great times. God be with you, Dad, until we meet again. Thank you for your time. Without further ado, my brother Rick will be up here to shed some more light on the life and time of Wild Bill.
I'm going to do this a little bit different. I'm going to talk to you from down here so your necks don't get sore, and put us on a little bit more of a level. Those of you that know the family know that I am a coach, just like my dad was. One of the greatest talks I ever had with my dad was at Alpine, sitting around the fire after picking up pine needles and pine cones for 8 hours one day. I got good at it because I had a great teacher. But we were talking about professions, and he told me why he went into music, and he asked me why I went into coaching. And my response was because I had the greatest coach in the world. And he kind of looked at me a little strange and said, "Do you think I'm a coach?" And I go, "The greatest coaches in the world are band directors." They really are. Because what they teach is the same thing coaches are trying to teach. And band directors, that's a pat on the back for you. Because sometimes we didn't always get it done. But most of the time, band directors get it done. And I've been associated with lots of you in the room before, and with lots of people that are no longer in existence that were incredible band directors that made great influences on young people. And I hope I've had the opportunity to do some of those same things as a coach, but I got it from my dad. We sat there and after finishing an adult libation, he looked at me and he said, "I never thought of it that way." And so I said, "See, Dad, I'm still teaching you." And made him laugh, which was good after a hard day's worth of work. My dad was the hardest working man I ever knew in my life. He really was. The countless number of hours that he spent working with kids after school and on the weekends, and maybe made me a little jealous sometimes because I didn't get some of that time with him. But being in the band, and as we got older, we got to share those same type of experiences with him. I was blessed to have my dad as a band director for 4 years in my life, 2 years at middle school level and 2 years at the high school level. And there were some epic father-son battles. And I want you to know I lost every single one. The character thing we talked about, and we're being, I'll switch to this side, maybe it'll help. We're being video cast here. Thank you, Kenny, for setting that up. So lots of students that my dad had in his career are on the video cast here, and I got to speak with some of them a little bit and share messages with them a little bit, and some of the things that they had to say about his character were funny. He was a prankster, having people hide in the tuba case and jump out when the tuba player opened it up. Today, I'm not too sure that tuba player is still the same. Hiding in the instrument cabinet and jumping out and scaring stuff. I want you to know I've done all those things as a coach, just in the locker room or just in the equipment cage. I've tried all those, and certainly got that from him. One of the greatest memories I got from most of the students at Roswell High, as my brothers talked about, when he started corps-style marching. I was in the band at New Mexico State at that time with Dr. Lotzenheiser, and we had just started the corps-style marching the year before, and man, it was different, but gosh, was it exciting. And nothing against Mr. Tillman and some of the older folks. Age 5, I love you, see ya. It was entertaining, it was appealing, and it was great for the band kids because I think it revived their interest in music. Dad did the Star Wars show where he put the whole band underneath a parachute, and that's how they started on the field, and the band came out from under the parachute. That to those kids at Roswell was an incredible thing, that you could hide a whole band underneath a parachute. And lots of their comments that I received from them specifically talked about that. Taking kids to trips across the nation to watch DCI national championships. He did that several years in a row, him and my mom. Filling up the back of the truck. Oh my goodness, hope there's no administrator still alive. To know that we did stuff like that. But, just great experiences for kids, and those brought on a lot of great memories for those folks. The display that's set up here depicts a lot of things about my dad, and thanks to the girls for putting it together. They did a great job. A true American, always a supporter of the troops and of our country, both volunteering and financially as much as he could. The Christmas lights, he was a freak, okay? And when we were living on Lee's Drive, and I was probably old enough to remember it enough, and we actually kind of had our own house then, and we decorated, and my mom said, are we going to stop decorating? And we didn't stop decorating, and we did it for years and years, and here in Roswell, and I did it, my brother did it, my son does it, and it's an important deal to him. So the lights depict that, and the flowers, those of you that everywhere at the house or the cabin know that he loves flowers, and worked very hard at trying to keep those things going. My mom loved them, and he liked doing it to make it easier on my mom. So, but the pine needle thing, I brought some. And you saw some on the table out in the front. I hate you guys. For years and years, I would go up to the cabin and help my dad with the pine needles. And it's amazing at the age of 80 years old that I got up there after school got out, and he had raked all 2 acres on his own. It was ready to go. He just couldn't pick it up, and he couldn't move it. And that's where we kind of came in. We kind of showed up and helped get those things done. And after we took out that year, and when he was 80, we took out 19 pickup trailer loads of pine needles and pine cones from the cabin. We would haul them about 12 miles to the pine needle dump, and that's why our place didn't burn down. Randy alluded to that, and it's very true, because it was so immaculate up there. And this house is the same in Las Cruces. As the days got older, as he got older in the last few days, tried to keep the yard nice for him, but we could never match his ability to take care of the yard like he did. And I'm going to do something with these pine needles in a minute, but we'll save them. Provider, Dad was the greatest provider in the world. He made sure that we had everything that we needed. His mom, my grandmother, instilled that in him, and he was able to make sure that we always got to go on a trip every summer. We got to go somewhere, to Disneyland or to Yellowstone or San Francisco, and the dreaded trip where we had our accident and didn't make it really anywhere. Got to spend about 5 days in a little town in California called Santa Maria, and we got to get blue chip stamps because we went bowling, and that was kind of the highlight of our trip because of the damage done to the car and stuff. But always made sure that there was always something for us to do during the summer. Did his summer band, like lots of you in the room did, to make enough money so we could have the opportunity to do that, because band directors are paid so much more than coaches are. Last 2 Thursdays ago, when Dad passed away, I got to share some very special 2 hours with just him and I. And it was cool. And I knew. And he told me he just got done talking to Mom before I got there. And I told him I hope he told her I said hi. And he smiled, and we talked about a couple other things and about some things that were going to happen. And I left the hospital and went home, and they said, get back up here, he has till 6. I was at about 5:15. At 5:24, I'm passing the Albertsons, and Randy sent me the deal saying that he passed. But I had a great 2 hours with my dad and got to reminisce about some really great things. And when I got up there and saw how peaceful and wonderful he looked, I was happy for him. And I grabbed him by the arm, said, you know what, I'm excited that tomorrow you and Mom are going to be eating red meat enchiladas with extra onions and whole beans in heaven. And that was their favorite deal, to eat enchiladas and have whole beans. Couldn't be anything but whole beans. And if they didn't have whole beans, they just didn't eat beans. And my brother, sister, and I went out and had went to Dad's favorite restaurant. And the day we went there, they were out of whole beans. It was incredible that would happen like that. But it was important to them, and that was one of their favorite treats in life. But just in closing real quick, I had a little talk with the big fella upstairs. I wanted to let him know what was going to happen when my dad got there, and to get ready, and to make sure that there was plenty of rakes available, because he was going to clean up the yard for him. And with that in mind, big fella, you left some behind for all of us, but we'll always follow you wherever you go. We really want to thank you for being here. It's important to us, and I know he's looking down to the people that are viewing on the webcast. Thank you for being here. Great man, he did great things, and the amount of people that he really touched, I wish I could share with you some of the emails I got from past students that I was in band with, or students that, and this was just really students from the Roswell area, because that's the only ones I knew. And did run into some few people in the community during the last few days, and they had great things to share and stories. And it's cool, because stories are cool, because they'll always be there. And that's why we call them stories. We'd like to invite everyone. We have Dad's and Mom's favorite food back here for you to eat, enchiladas. And we have the things that go along well with them. We would like to close with a prayer, and I'm going to ask my son if he'll come and close out for us. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you, those of you that marched through the whole deal, and kind of like marching in the Aspen Parade. It just keeps going and going and going. But thanks for being here. Have a great day, and please join us for something to eat and just celebrate and remember my dad.
I'm going to say just some quick notes. I can spot a pine needle 5 miles away because this man, I can shoot a squirrel in the eye, especially when they mess with his flowers. The one thing that I did pick up from him, and it has made me very successful in my career as a nurse, is his work ethic shown through every time. And to bust your butt. And I learned that from him, especially learning up there at the Alpine. And it's just made me a better nurse, a better person. Close with a prayer. Dearly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for letting us all join together and celebrate my grandfather's life. Please bless the food here before us may nourish us, and please bless me continue enjoying each other's company. Please bless safe travels for everyone as they go home today. Thy will be done in the name of Christ, amen.
Aurelia, how do you want them to do this? Okay, just make a line there, grab a plate, have yourself. Just real quick in closing, would like to thank some people that really went overboard to try to help you, Aurelia and Terry and Neoma and Kenny and Rich and Lindsay. Those are all family members, and we had some help from the outside, the music box and Hubbard's and Pete Escobar and White Carter and his family. Very generously just helped us do some stuff so we could get through all this. We want to acknowledge you and thank you for doing that. And as Dad would say, if you're the last one at the table, don't blame me if you don't get any. Thank you for being here.